When we look at the modern space race, it is easy to get distracted by the sheer size of the rockets. But the real secret to reaching further into the cosmos, just the hollow shells carrying that cargo. The absolute limit of what a country can achieve in space is entirely dictated by the engine doing the heavy lifting. And building the ultimate engine requires engineers to solve a massive chemistry problem. They have to find the perfect fuel. For decades, this search has forced scientists to make some incredibly painful compromises. Solving this fuel puzzle means a country can finally build rockets that are both incredibly powerful and reliable enough for frequent heavy-duty missions. Traditionally, engineers have had two main choices. The first option is liquid hydrogen. It is incredibly efficient, acting a lot like high-performance sports car fuel for space travel, but it comes with a massive headache. Liquid hydrogen is incredibly bulky, and to keep it safely in liquid form, it has to be stored at a freezing -253 degrees Celsius. Handling something that cold makes launching a logistical nightmare. So we look at the second option, kerosene. This solves the bulk issue. Kerosene is very dense, packing a lot of energy into a much smaller space, and it stays perfectly stable at normal room temperatures. The catch here is performance. While kerosene gives you plenty of raw power, it simply lacks the top-tier efficiency you get from burning liquid hydrogen. Engineers have been trapped, having to choose between the extreme, fragile cold of hydrogen and the lower efficiency of kerosene. What space agencies really needed was a fuel combination that sits right in the middle, something that is just right. This brings us to India's solution to this deep space dilemma, the semi-cryogenic engine. Let's break that name down. Cryogenic means super cold. By adding semi to the front, engineers are telling us that only half of the fuel system relies on those extreme freezing temperatures. Instead of using liquid hydrogen, this engine combines ultra-cold liquid oxygen with highly refined room temperature kerosene. By bringing these two completely different temperature states together into a single combustion chamber, the engine creates a highly stable, optimized burn. This specific mixture perfectly bridges the gap between raw power and practical handling. Let's look at exactly what makes this design so useful. First, there is the raw thrust. Because kerosene is so thick and dense, igniting it provides a tremendously powerful push right off the launch pad. Second, you get a massive logistical advantage. Since the kerosene sits safely at normal temperatures, you completely eliminate the need for the massive, complex freezing tanks that hydrogen requires. Needing less extreme cooling hardware drastically lowers the operational risks. It also makes moving the rocket components from the factory to the launch site significantly easier. This engine approach turns a rocket from a fragile, high-maintenance sports car into a reliable, heavy-duty pickup truck for the cosmos. If mixing room temperature fuel with deep frozen oxygen is such a great solution, you might wonder why every space agency isn't already doing it. The reality is that safely mixing extreme cold with room temperature liquids without causing a catastrophic explosion is incredibly difficult. It requires highly complex engineering that very few countries know how to do. Rather than spending decades on trial and error to figure out those complex plumbing issues, India's space agency is finalizing a major collaboration deal with Russia's Roscosmos. Working directly with Russian engineers instantly bridges India's technological gaps and drastically speeds up the timeline for getting this engine onto a launch pad. It is essentially like learning a secret recipe directly from a veteran master chef. India gets to skip the hardest parts of the learning curve. India is using this technical knowledge to build their own local version of the engine. It's called the SE-2000, and it's being developed right now by ISRO's Liquid Propulsion System Center. This chart shows exactly why the SE-2000 matters. Right now, India's maximum payload capacity is stuck at 4 tons. With this new engine, that capacity jumps up to 5 tons. That extra ton of lift-in power allows India to place massive satellites into a fixed spot tens of thousands of kilometers above the Earth, without needing to rely on a foreign launch service to do it for them. By combining this shared knowledge with local manufacturing, India is closing a major technological gap. The SE-2000 gives the country the heavy lifting capability needed to lead in the new space race.